It's time for the Dallas Cowboys locker room huddle. Let's eat.
Sports to the game. Tonight, I think it's safe to say that all these fans came out here to watch a game of football. John, we're in commercial. Yeah, I know. I'm just making conversation. Come on. Football.
Quarterback with the best PR team in the NFL. He has survived on two elements that aren't without value, but shouldn't be the beginning and end of the conversation. He has survived on talent, which he has, and draft status, which he has. The fact that Carson Wentz was picked so high in the draft and can make throws that only Patrick Mahomes can make has left guys like, well, my buddy Dan Orlovsky drooling and praising Carson Wentz at every turn, every week, and every year. Here was Dan Orlovsky this morning on Get Up.
What Carson Wentz has done this year is more impressive than 2017. He has become everything that everybody said he wasn't or that he couldn't do. He's taken the Thor hammer and absolutely smashed it. And I would say in totality, right, in the grand picture of everything, the whole season, not just this game, in the grand picture, this is the second most impressive quarterback performance of the season. Because what he did with what he was given is absolutely remarkable. Also the coaching staff and the organization. Yeah. But they can win this game. Nobody in the playoffs wants to play Carson Wentz right now.
The second best quarterback season of 2019. Better than Patrick Mahomes. Better than Russell Wilson. Only behind Lamar Jackson. Please, Dan, please. Carson Wentz solidified a playoff berth on the backs of a 4-1 December. And I give him credit. I truly do. See, that's the thing. There's no nuance in this conversation. There's no room for in between. If I tell you that Carson Wentz is overpraised, you think I'm telling you Carson Wentz is trash. I'm not. I think Carson Wentz is very, very good. And I think he has the best PR team in the league. I think Carson Wentz will one day be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but I think today he's still behind Dak Prescott. And I think if we're going to talk up his 2019 season, we need to talk about how he arrived at that 4-1 record in December. I think we need to talk about the way the Eagles made the playoffs. And it went like this here. First game of December, Eagles lost to the Miami Dolphins, 37-31. The 5-11 by the end of the season Miami Dolphins were the Eagles' first game of December, and they lost it. The Eagles then went on their run. They went on their winning streak. They won 4 games in a row. Went like this. The Eagles beat the 4-12 New York Giants 23-17 in a super big 1-touchdown blowout. The next week, the Eagles beat the 3-13 Redskins 37-27. 10 points against the 3-13 Redskins. Then the Eagles went on to beat the best team they faced in December, the 500 Dallas Cowboys, 17-9. And finally, to finish the season, and by the way, in no small part due to a defensive touchdown, the Eagles beat the 4-12 New York Giants again, 34-17. This is the second best season by a quarterback in 2019. This is why we're throwing rose petals at Carson Wentz's feet. I swear. Because of talent, because of draft status, I've never seen, certainly not in politics, where everybody is drugged through the mud. And not in sports, where even Patrick Mahomes somehow has his detractors. I've never seen among analysts, among quote-unquote experts, the universal praise that Carson Wentz gets. I push back today not to tell you that he's trash. Let me say that for the 3rd time today. I push back to say you might be overrating him just a tad when he's making his first ever playoff appearance this weekend. John in Mississippi, you're on the Stephen A. Smith Show with Will Kane.
A lot of people like to take offense to some of the stats that I post. But the thing about these stats and these milestones and these achievements that Carson Wentz is putting up this season is that a lot of people ain't doing it. Carson Wentz is doing it shorthanded. And it's not lies. A lot of people are taking offense to me posting that Carson Wentz, he just needs 250 passing yards to be the first quarterback in NFL history, in the 100-year history. You see what I'm saying? To throw for 4,000 passing yards without having a 500-yard receiving wide receiver. I'm not tipsy at all. No. You know what I'm saying? That's a fact. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. Mr. Marshall, thank you for the donation, bruh. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? So by me saying that Carson Wentz is the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 4,000 passing yards without having a 500-yard receiving receiver, people are rebuttaling that with, 4,000 passing yards isn't that big of an achievement. We're not saying that 4,000 passing yards is a big achievement from a broad spectrum of just the NFL, but 4,000 passing yards is an achievement for the Philadelphia Eagles because we haven't had a quarterback in our illustrious history, one of the oldest franchises, never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 passing yards in a season. Not Randall, not McNabb, not Jaws. Who else done came through? Not Foles. Not Kevin Cobb. Who else? Nobody else suited up in a not McNabb. Nobody else, not Vic. Nobody else suited up in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform ever threw for 4,000 passing yards. Carson Wentz is about to do it against the Giants. Not Rodney Peete. Yeah, not even Dougie P. You know what I'm saying? Carson Wentz is 250 passing yards short of breaking, you know what I'm saying, of doing something. Jeff Garcia, and he was a gunslinger. Jeff Garcia took us to the playoffs, I think, at one point. Nope, Randall Cunningham didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna gloss over that he's the first one to do that. You know what I mean? He threw for 33 touchdown passes in his second season. No other quarterback in Philadelphia's Eagles franchise history threw for 33 touchdown passes. As long as we've been in the game, Carson Wentz is doing putting up a lot of firsts, man. A lot of firsts. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, man, generational talent indeed, man. And he's the things that he's doing is proving it, man. The things that he's doing is proving it. You want to know why Donovan McNabb ain't in the Hall of Fame yet? He had a lot of
quarterback talent. You could argue is second only to Patrick Mahomes, but he ain't the second best quarterback in the league, and I would argue he's not one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league. So the fact that he's now getting fat off the NFC East, where except for one defensive touchdown, it's one-score games wherever you look. By the way, he's playing for a Super Bowl winning head coach who won the Super Bowl, made the playoff run without him at quarterback in a division where he's getting all these wins that Orlovsky wants to give him credit for, in a division where every other coach literally is being fired as we speak. Like we're waiting for breaking news. All the other head coaches are getting fired, and he's playing against them in tight games. So is it nice? Is he ticking in the right direction? I'm not at all saying he's not a good player. Carson Wentz not a bad quarterback. I'm saying his level of play is not commensurate with his pay or his talent right now.
Well, I got it, Dan, because I'll give you the last voice on this before you and Max get into it. Just let me say a couple of things. Number one, Max Kellerman, you need to pipe down on the emotion, because that's the similar kind of emotion you had when you were raving about how great Baker Mayfield was going to be this upcoming season. The emotions parallel with one another. Just be careful about that. That's number one. Number two, there's an inordinate amount of drops that Carson Wentz was suffering from, at least costing the Philadelphia Eagles 3 games, which Dan Orlovsky accurately pointed out weeks ago. Even though the Dallas Cowboys had their drops too, as you pointed out in Philadelphia, the reality is Carson Wentz had to deal with that. That's point number 2. Point number 3, when we look at Carson Wentz, durability was a question mark. Got hurt 2 years ago en route to an MVP. Ultimately, he would have captured the MVP award, but he got injured late in the season when Nick Foles ultimately took over and guided them to a Super Bowl. Last year, he got hurt again. Nick Foles comes in, gets them to the playoffs, plus a victory over Chicago. We get all of that. But this season, you have Deshaun Jackson. He's gone. Alshon Jeffrey. He's gone. Nelson Aguilar. He's gone. Ultimately against Dallas, Zach Ertz went down. So you're talking about a Carson Wentz that went in yesterday's game, down 4 receivers, okay? We don't even get started with their running game. We just found out about Miles Sanders because we didn't know too much about him prior to this season because he wasn't supposed to be their guy. Jordan Howard out of Chicago was supposed to be their guy. That didn't end up being the case. And so when you look at the bevy of weapons, when you talk about Donovan McNabb, I hear you on that because that's a point that Donovan McNabb has made in the past, publicly and privately, that the bar was moved. He was held to a more stringent critique per se. But the bottom line is those weapons, although somewhat mediocre in a lot of people's eyes, but then they got injured and disappeared, and you had to fit in guys from the practice squad, for crying out loud, like a Ward or a Boston Scott or people like that. So these are all the things that Carson Wentz did, and in light of that reality, along with being 5-7, along with the eye of the storm coming in his direction, and them still closing out the season with 4 straight wins, finishing strong in the month of December, I would say he deserves far more respect than you are giving him. Go ahead, Dan.
Well said, Stephen A. All right, Max, this is my favorite thing to do week by week is coming to here and talk to you about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz's 2019, in totality, is the second most impressive quarterback performance in the whole NFL. Outside of Lamar Jackson, it's the second most impressive one. Not a single skill player, tight end, wide receiver, running back that started yesterday was in the NFL week 1. Not on the Eagles, was in the NFL. The Eagles to go on this run needed Carson Wentz to play perfect football. Not good football, not really good football, perfect football. In their wins, he's got 16 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Max, you continue to bring up the point of all these excellent pieces around him. Who?
Competent.
No.
Competent pieces.
You said excellent.
Well, is Ertz excellent? Yes or no?
Ertz didn't play yesterday, Max.
But is he excellent?
Didn't play
Is
yesterday.
Goddard excellent?
No.
He's not excellent.
Excellent,
Yes,
Max?
he's excellent.
You can't even name these.
Is Miles Sanders excellent?
Good.
Okay.
Did he play yesterday, Max?
How was Scott yesterday? He did play. How was
he
Scott yesterday?
excellent?
Was he excellent yesterday?
You never even heard of these guys, Max.
Whether or not I've heard of them doesn't speak to whether they're good or not. Or did they?
They weren't in the NFL.
You just said
5 months ago,
Dan,
Max.
you just said you keep
They
moving it.
weren't in
Are
the
they
NFL.
excellent? And then you want to focus on yesterday. Let's focus on yesterday. How did Boston Scott play yesterday?
Good.
Did Carson Wentz rush for 3 touchdowns and get the defensive turnover
Did he
to
get
ice
the ball
game?
down to the 1-yard line to afford those 3 touchdowns? That's such a silly comment.
He had a couple of elite throws that only he or Mahomes could make, followed up by bad throws.
Max,
You're like, what do you say?
Max,
It's
the kid,
not true.
the guy needed to be perfect for them to go on this
Obviously
run.
not.
He was perfect. Your commitment to not giving him credit is just as impressive, but also mind-numbing as Jerry Jones's commitment to Jason Garrett over 10 years.
No, I
It
do
makes
give him credit.
No
Wait a minute.
sense.
I don't give him credit out of proportion to the accomplishments.
Max.
Every single coach in the division is fired. Do you think that's because their teams are good?
No, they lost to the Eagles. That's why.
Oh, that's why they're getting fired, because they all
Sure.
lost to the Eagles?
Yeah.
And most of the other teams they played.
Max.
This is the worst division maybe in the history of football.
Max, he had 23
They're
completions.
one-score games for the most
23
part.
completions yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Over half were guys that were never drafted into the NFL. He has done something with nothing. It's been the second most impressive quarterback performance.
McNabb, when he went, let's talk about Donovan McNabb.
No.
When he went 11-5, he would have killed for
He had like a
Ertz
top
or
6
Goddard
defense all the time, Max.
or Miles Sanders
He had
or
a
yesterday Boston Scott.
He had a top 5 defense, top 6 defense. all
Ward
the
has
time.
been competent.
You
down
want to
the
talk
stretch,
about
but
the
they're not
competition?
further
You know what I found?
beside the point.
You know what I find is silly is that you've tried to minimize what he's accomplished over the last 6 weeks because you say it's against nobody. Top 10 defenses when Carson Wentz has played them this year. He's 3rd in QBR.
No way, no how